That's the ticket. In eclipse season, it's also the last eclipse in Gemini that we'll have for another 8 to 9 years. This is super duper exciting. We're also going to have a Mercury Cazimi in the heart of the sun just hours after the eclipse. This is really remarkable and really interesting to talk about with you all. So before we deep dive into that, let's get the stats. We've got a partial solar eclipse happening at 19 degrees of Gemini in 47 minutes. This is a North Node eclipse, and this is happening at 6:52 a.m. Eastern Time. So adjust for your time zone. So the Gemini part of our chart and of our life has been under significant and potent renovation since May of last year. You might remember May of 2020. It was a big month. We were all coming out of the stay-at-home order, and the world was literally on fire. Like, there was so much happening. You were there, you remember. And what it really started to do was kick off the beginning of these eclipses in the Gemini Sagittarius axis of our chart. So on a collective level, having the North Node in Gemini is really about learning to learn. It's about learning. It's about learning. And having the South Node in Sagittarius, this is really about unlearning. This is really about letting go and really starting to question some of the pre-formulated beliefs that we've told ourselves and have been kind of prescribed to us by society and institutions at large. This has been a time where a lot of leadership has fallen. Cancel culture, it's been going on for a while, but it's gotten especially bad, or I shouldn't say bad, I should say intensified while the South Node has been in Sagittarius, because what it's showing is the shadow side also. I mean, it's important to call out, right? It's very important to do that. But the shadow side is the righteousness and leaving little room for gray area. So this person did this bad thing, like cancel the whole person and their whole legacy kind of thing. And that's not necessarily productive. We also have the North Node in Gemini, which is inviting us to broaden our perspective in a way that holds space for multifaceted realities. Like, this can be true and this can be true. Like, you and I can both be right and wrong at the exact same time, having totally different ways of perceiving life. So yeah, these eclipses with the North and South Node in these signs have been getting us to really question our beliefs and where it's coming from, and to kind of diversify our intake of information, where we're getting our information, and really starting to question a lot of those sources. Also, it's been interesting having the North Node in Gemini, because it has really shifted the way we think about education also as a result of this pandemic, and also just inviting us to be creative. Like, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, look at all these other ways that we can work, or it's just giving us more options is basically what the North Node in Gemini is doing, and inviting us to open our mind and find new sources of information. So yeah, that's a little bit about what this has been doing. So the Gemini area of our life has been under major renovation, as I mentioned, because not only did we start having these eclipses in the Gemini Sagittarius area of our chart and of our life in May of 2020, but we also had a Venus retrograde in Gemini going on in May and June of 2020. And right now, we also have Mercury retrograde in Gemini. Both of these retrogrades of the personal planets have been square to Neptune. Basically, what that has been doing is saying, inviting us to question everything. And really, there's a great deal of uncertainty about what's going on. And when you don't have certainty, which is what the South Node in Sag has been doing, is taking away certainty and instilling doubt. You don't have all the answers. Sagittarius can be a very opinionated sign. I'm right, and leaving little room for questioning. Like, we can think about Sagittarius, like in its more shadow form of being like an institutionalized belief system where people who question it are heretics. So having the North Node in Gemini is inviting us to question, is inviting us to create alternate pathways in our mind, and inviting us to create alternate pathways of possibility in our lives. So, but in a square to Neptune, it's daunting, it's overwhelming because there's too many options and too much uncertainty. So it has all felt a little overwhelming. What do? We know that retrogrades basically reframe, invite us to rethink, recycle, repurpose, reorganize, and reframe. And eclipses illuminate, showing us things in totally new ways. So yeah, this Gemini area of our chart has been in serious flux and in serious transition where we've had no choice but to just be open. Like we don't know. We don't know what's happening. But I think that this eclipse is going to provide some of those key puzzle pieces we've been waiting for. So why would that be? Well, the only aspects that this solar eclipse is really making is a conjunction to Mercury, which is in its domicile in Gemini, which means that Mercury is very strong, very comfortable in the sign of Gemini, able to do more mercurial things, curiosity, logic, wit, brilliance, being a mastermind juggler, being able to carry multiple interests at once, to ask questions, to be inquisitive, and and Mercury's the magician too, which is pretty interesting. So this solar eclipse really seems to highlight Mercury retrograde, and there's a very important point in the middle of Mercury's retrograde in which Mercury aligns with the heart of the sun. This is known as Mercury Cazimi, where Mercury becomes purified and renewed. So it's usually at this point in the retrograde that we start to be like, aha, this is the clarity. This is the clarity in the eye of the storm where we're like, I know what I have to do now. There's still some other stuff I'm going to have to figure out before Mercury goes direct and I'm ready to really move forward. But this is the retracing of the steps point where we get that aha moment. So it seems very fated. It feels very destined. It feels very purposeful and meaningful that we would get this Cazimi just moments after the sun has been eclipsed. So there's just like this very pertinent, very potent, very acute, very poignant kind of awareness coming in that's even more somehow powerful than it normally would be with Mercury moving into the heart of the sun. So I'm guessing that it could be a little shocking. It could be just like, holy shit, wasn't really ready to see that, but it makes a lot of sense. So be ready. The other really important layer here is that this solar eclipse is squaring to Neptune, and it's aligned with a retrograde Mercury. Together, these forces kind of invite us to go inward. You know, sometimes we can get inundated with trying to reorganize things in our outer world, like in our life, when really the reorganization really has to come from within and really shifting our relationship with the thing that we're trying to solve right now. And Neptune plus retrograde Mercury, they're really describing symbols. So notice where the universe is really sending you signals, and don't be afraid to pay attention to that. So from here forward, I'm going to continue to go through sign by sign what this eclipse is doing, where this Gemini action is happening in your chart, where it's been happening. And so if you are a patron, stay tuned. And if you are not a patron, but you're very curious about, hearing some more of my perspectives around where this is happening in your chart and in your life, you can join me on Patreon at the $5 Moonrise tier, and you'll get this new moon video every single month. You'll also be the first to get bonus content, and there's other really cool things I offer. Like I've got right now a free download for the Saturn and Aquarius lecture where I predicted that there would be some new viruses coming in. So yeah, you can definitely check that out. And if you're just sticking around for this portion, thanks for being here, and I will catch you next time. Thanks so much for joining me today. For more astrology in your world, you can connect with me on Instagram or Twitter or Patreon at AstroCatherine. You can book your reading with me at my website, and I look forward to connecting with you.